Good morning, everyone. Today is hopefully the last day that I ever have to TA again. So I thought I would do a Q&A with a university TA while taking you through my last day of being a TA. So the first thing that I need to do is actually start lesson planning. I woke up late. I've been waking up late lately to only have about an hour to do it. But one of the first questions I think we should start off with is, what are the requirements to be a TA? Generally, I would say that there aren't any requirements per se that are universal, but rather per department or per school. But generally, if you are in a PhD program, if you want to be a TA and you want to receive kind of a higher amount of money, you would need a master's. Most PhD programs don't encourage their first year to teach. There are oftentimes expectations that in your first year you would take some type of pedagogical training or curriculum training or teaching training with your university to prepare you to TA. But none of that is really written in stone. So it's not impossible as a first year in a PhD to become a TA. And if you're in a master's program, it's not impossible either, but very, very unlikely. So generally, I would say you should, if you're interested in TAing when you first get into your PhD, have some level of expertise in a field. So even if you don't have a master's, or even if you don't have that curriculum training, you could still technically teach something because you're just super qualified. And this is also applicable to master students or PhDs in general, is the more time you are in your program, the easier, more likely you are to be hired as a TA. As a PhD student, as you get higher into your levels of progress, like becoming a PhD candidate, having a certain amount of years of experience doing research and all these things, you should be able to progress higher in payment scales, but it doesn't necessarily make you more competitive or less competitive. So yeah, I think the only requirement is a level of expertise. But again, if you're just in a PhD program, that also doesn't always matter. I think the only real requirement is making sure your department knows that you need to teach, or that you are applying to TA-ships outside of your department so you can teach. And then from there, again, any given department can have its own requirements, but there's nothing like specific or special, though of course teaching experience, expertise in a subject. If you speak another language as a native speaker, that's always great. Those will help you get a job, but not having those things won't keep you from becoming a TA. Okay, now I need to lesson plan. The next question that I've gotten is being a TA hard? Now, I do have a video that talks like all in detail about it that you can watch right here, and it's in the description. But generally, I would like to say yes and no, and here's why. Yes, because the school system, generally in the US, no matter where you work, is created to exploit the labor of teaching assistants and graduate students more broadly, and that can just make any job harder. You have larger classes, you have larger workloads, you don't have that much time, you're still expected to produce as a graduate student. But also no, because as you TA more, or you get used to trainings and things like that, you can create systems to kind of create solutions to those barriers that the school gives you. And also, I think if it's something that you enjoy, it is a really rewarding job. If you hate teaching, then it's the worst. But if you find out that you love being around undergraduate students, that you love teaching, that you love curriculum development, then it makes that hard part of teaching just so much more bearable. The next question that I've gotten is, how many students, like what is the least and most amount of students that you've taught in a given class? The smallest class that I've ever taught as a TA was like 5 or 6 students. And it was a very special program, but it was a tiny group of students, and so it was great. You get to build a lot of like relationships and experience with these students. You get to literally know them like they're a part of you, even in a short quarter system. Teaching a small class is really manageable, especially as a graduate student, and it's even more rewarding because of how deep of a relationship you can build with your students. And there's a lot of feedback, so it feels like they like you or they also feel the same way. The largest class I've ever taught was like as large and as disconnected as it could get. It was like 427 students, and I think I was one of 5 TAs, and it was during all of the distant learning, online learning stuff, so it was via Zoom. So not only did we have over 400 students, but I think I've probably seen like 3 of my students' faces that entire quarter. And that was a very interesting experience. Still a very generative process. Even when students don't turn on their camera, I still feel like if they're participating, if they're messaging me, emailing me, we can still build relationships. So it was really, really nice, but obviously I didn't get to know all 400 students that were in the entire lecture. And for the most part, I probably didn't get to know about 50% of the students that were in my particular section, which was about 60 students in my section, which is on average. You get 20 students per section. You can have 3 sections based off of like your pay grade. So like that's the largest lecture. Now the largest amount of students I had to manage by myself was my very first time TAing at UCLA, my very first year of TAing period. And it was a brand new class in the Chicano Studies department. And they just didn't expect it to get so large. And so I was the only TA, and our class got to like 80 students. I will say, even though technically they were all my students, the professor was really supportive. And so like any given time, she tried to not have me work with more than 60 students at a time, since that's the contract or the workload. But I did feel obligated to get to know all the students and work with all the students and make sure we were building those relationships. So 80 was the most amount that I had like a one-on-one relationship. 400 was the largest section, and then 6 was the smallest, or 5 or 6 was the smallest class I've ever TA'd. All right, we're gonna get ready to head out to my actual class where I have to teach. A squirrel. The next question that I got was, do you regret being a TA in regard to like balancing work-life balance and all of that stuff and doing research? Is being a TA worth it? Do you regret doing it? And this is like a complicated answer for me, because yes, in a perfect world, if I were to do my PhD again, I would have definitely preferred to do a lot less teaching, like a lot less teaching. That doesn't mean I wouldn't have taught at all, but I would not have taught every single quarter that I've been at UCLA, and I would not have taught multiple classes the same quarter. And I did that for like 4 years straight. And that made doing research and other parts of like just existing here at UCLA really, really difficult. Now, with all that said, I don't regret it in the sense like I genuinely enjoy teaching. I think professionally being a TA has given me a lot of opportunities, and also has helped me get a lot of grants and jobs and other types of funding because of my experience as a TA. And so I think it's a double-edged sword. I think there's somewhere a middle ground where you shouldn't have to teach to survive all the time, but teaching is valuable and very, very useful. Okay, I need to stop talking. I need to get to class. Hi! And we have a good amount of people here. We have somebody online, and it is our last class together. I know. Do you need tissues? Because I'm going to be a wreck. Quintessential movie to the horror genre, right? This movie is referenced 1,000 times over in a variety of different shows. And the main character is Norman Bates. Now, does anybody know, like, anything about Norman Bates or, like, the premise of Psycho?
This advertisement is wrong on several levels. There's a series of inappropriate sexual innuendos.
And then both women are, like, stereotypically, like, the beauty standard.
Bye, y'all! Happy Thursday! Good luck on finals! Bye! Okay, they're all gone. I am exiting out of everything. Oh no, I pressed the button. Don't know what that means. Okay. I am exiting out of everything, packing up and getting ready to go. What an amazing class. It's always hard to say goodbye to your students, but when you spend so much time with them one-on-one and you're working together in an experience like this class where you're talking about systemic oppression, you're talking about, you know, social justice and liberation and futures, it just becomes real intimate and you really get invested in each other, which kind of leads to one of the questions, which is, generally, are students nice? And I would say generally, absolutely. I think it has a lot to do with what courses you teach, what your own like demeanor or like personality is like. And obviously there are people that aren't just going to like you. That 100% impacts a lot of like queer, femme, black, and indigenous women disproportionately. But as somebody who fits many of those identities, and the fact that I teach a lot of courses about like ethnic studies, systems of oppression and liberation, I can say that my students are amazing and I genuinely love them and feel so honored and just lucky and blessed to have had the opportunity to share these spaces, these classrooms, these courses with them, and to learn alongside of them, but also to see them like start from a point and then end up in a whole new point, both because of the content that I'm sharing and also because of their own individual expertise and experience and world that is being built by their education, their family, and their cultures and things like that. So yes, I think students are generally more times than not kind, and the students that don't show up that often or don't necessarily try to be around that much. Now again, there's always outliers, there's always turds, but generally, yes, I would say students are the best part of being a TA. Okay, I need to hurry up and go because I need to get out of here so I can do other things. Okay, just got home, gonna eat some Chipotle and hang out with Eric, and then after that I don't know what I'm gonna do. I should write, but let's answer another question. And one of the questions that I think is like nice, and you kind of can allude to it, but it's like, what is your favorite part about being a TA? And it really is just the opportunity to teach. Like, I enjoy the process of helping people gain understanding of the world around them, and in my case, systems of oppression. And since that's my passion, it's really cool to see people who didn't have an awareness or had an awareness but didn't necessarily feel confident or empowered about that awareness to leave my classes or to leave these spaces feeling proud or like powerful or unstoppable or just better about the situation. And so I love my students to death, but even in the sense of like being a TA, like you may not know all of your students. I enjoy the process of knowing that through this educational system, through the process, maybe not the system, because you know. But through this process that we get to exchange ideas and experiences, and then that can help people become more of who they want to be or understand the world better in a way that could serve them for whatever purpose. So my favorite, that was a long-winded way to say my favorite part about being a TA is helping people reach their goals, be it educational goals, personal goals, societal, social justice goals. It just feels really good to be like, yes, you understand it now, and I'm gonna affirm that and go on and do whatever you want with that, because that's powerful. Okay, I know you probably think, ew, this is gross, so much sour cream, so much guac. I don't care. I don't care. Okay, I'm done eating. I'm gonna get into something comfortable and watch some YouTube, and then I'll write later on tonight. But I do want to answer one more question, and it is, what is something you wish you would have known before becoming a TA? And I think for me, the main thing that I wish I would have known is that boundaries are essential to being a successful TA and balancing being a graduate student and any other responsibilities that you have. But it's not the only thing that I wish I would have known. And so if you want to know more about what I wish I would have known as a TA, you should watch this video next, because it's going to give you every single thing that I wish I would have known and how to avoid the mistakes that I've made as a TA. I want to thank you all so much for watching, for joining me on my very last day of TAing as a graduate student. Oh my gosh. And I will see you next week.